How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm really excited to connect with you today.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm glad we have a little bit of time to talk about your egg freezing experience. I want to dive right in and ask you just a few introduction questions. Tell us your name, your age, where you live.
Yeah, so my name is Victoria Reitano, but everybody calls me Vix because I've got the fix. I'm 31 and I live in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Okay, and what do you do?
So I am the founder, CEO, and chief creative officer of Six Borough Social and the co-founder of Six Borough Studios, a digital advertising agency and content production house.
And how did you learn about egg freezing? Was it something on your radar for a while, or was it something new that popped
Yes.
on?
I wanted to do it for a really long time. When I was 24, Maria Menounos did it,
Yeah.
and then she did that big piece on GMA. I don't know if you remember that.
Totally.
And I wanted to do it before then, but nobody was really talking about it. Like, I knew it was possible. Everyone in my family is either a lawyer or a doctor, and all of the doctors are OBGYNs. So I was very familiar with like IVF, and I had a deep understanding of what it was and, you know, what I could do, what was possible. But to me, it always felt like it was something that was super expensive.
Yeah.
And Maria Menounos was somebody that I had always admired. And then when she did it, I was like, well, she's a real human being that, like, maybe I don't know one-on-one, but I know that she's a real person. And all the doctors, including those like in my own family, didn't want me to do it. I had a really hard time finding a doctor to do it. And then as I got older, I just like didn't do it. I was so busy focused on my career, starting my business. And then when I turned 29, I was like, I want to make this happen before I turn 30. And I found a clinic that specialized in it, in egg freezing exclusively in Manhattan. And that's how I did it.
I see. Okay. So wait, let's dial back.
Yeah.
Where you were saying that your family didn't want you to do this. What was there, like some fear based?
So my mom was like on board. She would love if I had a baby now, but like I don't want a baby now. I also am still single, so I don't want to have a baby without a man. That's important to me. It doesn't have to be important to everybody. But you know, my family who are doctors, some of them were concerned about, you know, the implications of taking so many hormones and, you know, the process itself. Now, I will say the process was much more aggressive than I anticipated, but I don't regret doing it. And I mean, I do. When you tell me no, I'm a Taurus. I'm going to do what you tell me not to do, no matter what. So that's just me personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just were concerned from, I think, more of a physical standpoint, and also like, oh, you don't need to do that. But it's not about need, it's about want. And to me, as a female founder, freezing your eggs is a business decision. And I think that more young women should look at family planning, not like we spend 30 years or more trying not to get pregnant, right? Like from whenever we start, or let's say 18 years. So from 18 to, 18, 20, you have sex the first time, you start trying not to get pregnant. But after all that time, it's not just about that you don't want to be somebody who's pregnant and alone. It really should be about what do you actually want. I find that a lot of the education, obviously I went to a Catholic all-girls high school, so our education was abstinence and no other questions. And I think that that's a big problem. Like, I don't think that should have been the conversation. We were a very career-focused school. So to me, this needs to be part of that conversation as well.
Yeah, I love that. First off, this is a business decision. Freezing your eggs is 100% a business decision.
Yeah.
And it's smart. I mean, it's the one way we can control our future, our family future. Yep. And it's just, it's something so empowering. I don't know how you felt about it, but.
I did feel empowering. I have dated my fair share of, what are we going to call them?
Flukes?
Special men. I don't know what other PC way of putting it. But yeah, and the older you get, the more you think about it. I mean, my mother had 2 children under 10 by my age. I'll be 32 in May. So, that was her path. I think our paths are different, but no better or worse. I mean, I have friends who have babies, who are having children, who have children and got married very early, and now it's a different story for them. Like, mm-hmm. I think that women are really pushed into quote unquote traditional decisions because there's no one else talking about other options. And when we try to talk about other options, it's like, oh, what are you, a feminazi? Like, it becomes this thing. Like, I'm a fierce feminist, and I have it tattooed on me because feminism is about equality. And if we really want to be equal, then we have to be able to look at our fertility as a big picture of our future planning. Just like a 401k, just like buying a property by yourself. Like, it's your body, your choice, but it also means that, like, it's your body, your plan.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you're 100% fierce in the feminine world by far. Probably tiering level top dog on that. I love your mentalities though, because I think this is the real way to look at things. Why not egg freezing too, right? I mean, they're just not going to understand it.
Well, and my mom is a lawyer. So my mom went to law school in the 80s. You know, my mom was a lawyer. She's been a lawyer 33 years. So at the point when she was a lawyer, you had to wear skirts to go to court. Like, in the 80s and 90s, you couldn't wear a pantsuit. And especially now, if we think about what a pantsuit represents to young women, like, it was such a different world. And my mom is so educated, but yet I still grew up. My parents got divorced when I was young. And, you know, I grew up under her desk, like, literally. She's moving her office now, and she laughs because her organization system is something I created one summer when I was like 12. But the whole point is that taught me that having a baby and having a job are not mutually exclusive, and that having a family and having a career are not mutually exclusive. And I think that, you know, my mom often says, this is what we fought for. This is what we pushed for. And then now, as I talk to women in their 20s, they have such a different, not that we're much older or younger, like a lot of my friends are like 24, 25, 26. And I find that they are so much better than we are at, like, handling things, that, you know, not internalizing. Like, I think this generation of women who are stuck between, let's say, 28 and 35 kind of got the brunt of both things, right? We were super technologically advanced. Like, we all know how to type. We all know how to use computers. We all know how to do that stuff. But we remember beepers, and we remember fax machines and typewriters and, like, all these things that align ourselves with things that are not truly authentic to us.
I like that. I've never thought about that in that particular way before, but you're right. I always say how I ride the fence on both being a millennial and then thinking like an old school style thought process or the way patterns used to be. But I think it's also like what you're comfortable with.
100%.
So, growing up with both the cell phone in your hand and an iPad and then also the rotary phone, I mean, you just sort of know a little bit about the past that the younger generation is never thinking about.
No, 100%. And, you know, I think it's funny. A lot of my friends who are my age or a little bit older, you know, the more that I talk about this, like, when I did it, they were like, well, I'll just do it when I'm 35. I said, but what if 35 is too late? I said, you don't know. You're 29 right now. I said, go for the test.
Yep.
And the test is not, you know, this
invasive.
More than I'm like, it's not 100%. And even the eggs, like, I had a conversation with a woman, because I always share this, that I froze my eggs, and I think it's really important to share. And this one woman said to me, I met at a networking event, and she was talking about her IVF process. And she said, you know, if you ever want to talk about that part of it, I would love to have that conversation. And I said to her, I firmly believe that this conversation, my egg freezing, has to continue through the lives of my children, whether or not I use my eggs. I don't know if I'm going to use my eggs, because I am open to what comes for me, whether it's having kids sooner or not having to use my eggs. To me, I froze them because it was something I wanted to do. I would still like to do a round of embryos when I find that man, but I will think about that when I get to 33. That's like my next milestone, because again, you have to set milestones. You can't just say like, oh, I'll figure it out. Like, my mom woke up at 37 and needed a hysterectomy. Now, again, there's no way to say that that'll happen to me or not. We don't have a lot of the similar, like, health struggles. I also, you know, we went gluten-free as a family about 11 years ago, and gluten-free, you know, celiac disease and anyone with gluten intolerance, if they don't follow that diet, there are very high infertility rates, like 95% high. That's what I did my senior thesis on, because I was fascinated by celiac. And that's when I got diagnosed in college. So, you know, I think that it's not a guarantee either way. like I could end up having kids well into my 40s and do it totally naturally, totally fine. But you could also wake up one day and have somebody say to you, this is not your path. And I don't want to ever have to feel like that. Like I didn't try to make a plan.
Right. Or that you didn't use all of the technology that was afforded to you.
Right.
Yeah. And I also think, we just don't know how the future is going to play out.
Right.
And why not give yourself more options? So I echo like 100% everything you're saying. It is by far exactly what I talk about too. So it's refreshing to meet someone else who thinks very similar.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to, okay, so you knew you were going to do this. You took the right paths to make it happen. You got your AMH test. You went for your fertility assessment. And then you started your shots. What was that like for you? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Did it feel like it was going as planned? What happened?
Yeah, I actually, I'm working, so because I am a digital creator, I filmed every single shot I gave myself. Yeah. And it was actually in my New York One piece where they shared some of that footage, but I'm creating, because Vix Does Fertility is the hashtag that I did for this series, because I really think that this conversation needs to continue and needs to have multiple viewpoints to really make it a holistic conversation.
Yep.
So as I was filming myself doing it, you could see like I go from being very nervous and very unsure and like have the iPad set up with all the, this is how you do it, and then to the like last few days where I'm just like pop it right in. Like it was just, you're not as worried. The only thing that I will say as far as my process is that I wish that I had gotten more hormones, which I know would have made it more difficult because I only have 7 eggs frozen. They had 15 follicles, but they only froze the mature eggs, and I had seven of them. So I was hoping to get like a much better return because I was so young and because they had such high projections. Obviously, there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
But that's my only
how you're stemmed is very important because I think how you are stemmed in the fertility cycle is very important, and having that conversation with your doctor on how aggressive do you want to be. That is something that I had many talks with, and because I went to 3 different places, I had different perspectives of doctors that gave me a different viewpoint on how to stem yourself in the early beginning, the middle, the end, and what maybe some of those research actually says about it. So that's really interesting. That was a
never been pregnant. Also,
yeah.
So that's the other thing. Like it's not like I've had again, I've never tried. So I feel like that probably played a role because obviously we all have friends who, took their choice and did whatever which like I wrote a whole blog about that if I was not, at that point I was so not ready that I'm spending all this money to freeze my eggs. If I had, and, if I had gotten pregnant naturally, I would have still had an abortion. Like that was even though I'm spending all this money to freeze my eggs and preserve my fertility, it was about choice and doing it in my time. Mm-hmm. So now I'm a little older. I don't know if that happened to me, would I make the same choice? I don't know. My whole point there is like, it is a very personal choice at different stages of your life.
Yeah.
But I wish that I had, so I am an expert in what I do, right? And I go to other experts, doctors, hairstylists, nail techs, you name it. And I'm kind of like, I don't really want people telling me how to do my job. So I'm going to ask the questions that I want to ask, and then I'll let you do your job. Sometimes
you're a dream patient, by the way.
I'm not a doctor. Like, that's what I always say. I'm not a doctor. I read things on the line. Like, can you tell me if this is normal? If this is this? Like, I ask the questions, but you tell me an answer. I'm not going to be like, but this science journal says, like, that's not my place.
Yeah.
Because you did your education, you did your work. So I do wish that I had pushed a little bit more on that. Only because, but see, the other thing was afterwards. So I ended up doing 12 days of shots. And then they took them, from me. I want to use the word harvested, but I know there's a better word for that. Retrieved, much better word. Harvested sounds like a cow, which we kind of feel like anyway. So once they retrieved the eggs, then I was like fine for 2 days, and then like come the end of the year. So I did it Halloween-ish time.
Yeah.
And then November is when I, like, November 1st or 2nd, 2017 is when they retrieved them. So come like December 2018 or 2017, January 2018, I started to notice that I had a lot of acne. And like I had never had acne.
Wow.
I also was not on hormonal birth control. I had an IUD. I still have an IUD. I use Paragard. But prior to that, I only used like condoms, and I wasn't using any birth control because I had done the NuvaRing when I was in college and like regular pills, and it made me so like insane. So I stayed away from it. And then when I did the NuvaRing, I was getting yeast infections and all this. And I was like, I will just protect myself as I need to. I'm not like worried about it. So I hadn't had hormones at that point before I gave myself the shots for like, more than my natural hormones, like anything extra. So I got all that. And then my 30th birthday was coming, and I ended up having to get my face lasered because I had so much like cystic acne that I had scars and stuff, which like I didn't even have when I was a kid. I'm like, I'm 30 years old and now I have acne.
I know, adult acne just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't feel like it should happen, but it does. And I've heard this from other people. You're not the only one. And it's not, I don't know that it's necessarily from the fertility treatments. I think it's just a period where your hormones are a little more active than they used to be.
And what I say to people is like, your body is really getting ready to have kids. Like if we think about it, most people are having their first or second kid between 28 and 35, right?
Yeah. So
like your body is moving into that space. So like, I do think it was a combination of like the perfect storm. But then I also noticed for me, like I wish I had done it. Let's put it this way. When I froze my eggs, I wish I had also worked with a holistic OBGYN, like a functional medicine OBGYN, so that I could have had more conversation about, because I've had terrible OBGYN experiences. Like I go to more OBGYNs than I go on first dates. Like it's because I just can't. And they're always like, you don't have the same. I'm like, no, because I had one guy on the Upper East Side deny me an IUD at 25 because I didn't have a boyfriend. And I was like, excuse me?
Well, but you know what? There's some history there. Working in the breast cancer space and the birth control space and women's health for the last 15 years. When birth control first came out in the 60s, they actually only wanted to give it to women that were married. That's how archaic this whole history has become. And I mean, hey, good for you. You fought the good fight, and you brought progression and kind of like gave your sense of what is okay to some of these doctors that have a very limited view on like what should happen out there. Like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's male doctors sometimes, and I don't want to put all male doctors in this category, but I feel like they just don't get some of the changes that have happened. Let's face it, our biology has not caught up to our progression in society. And so therefore we're automatically going to have opinions and point of views that are different than what they learned in medical school 30 years ago.
And it's not their fault. Like I don't really blame them, but I definitely I wish I had done it, when I did it, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm ready. Let's go. Like I was ready to do it, but I wish I had more support.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. It's like, maybe,
we're the in-between generation where we had to fight for that too. Kind of like our mothers had to fight for basic working rights and things of that nature. And it's still an evolution that's changing. I love your point of view. I mean, I literally feel like I could talk to you for days. I want to just get to like after you finished your retrieval and you finished your egg freezing experience, especially because you documented it. I don't know if you ever went back and looked at like a lot of those footages, but did you notice like how fast your body changed in such a short period of time, or like just even remembering things maybe differently than how it was recorded, like what actually happened? Like that I feel like happened to me, so I was curious if that happened to you too.
I had my baby brain like very fast, and I had weird cravings, which so I eat this weird, it's quinoa eggs and like hot sauce that I make myself. Sometimes it's like a weird breakfast thing when I know I'm going to be busy and not have time for lunch. And literally that's all I wanted to eat. And I was like, well, if this is all I want to eat when I'm pregnant, at least I won't be fat. I was like, quinoa, it's good for the baby. So like it was, but I literally felt like somebody unplugged me every day at 4:00. I had the like luxury of working for myself so that I just stopped scheduling stuff. But there were times I was on phone calls with clients and I just forgot the word. Like just completely, I was like, oh my God, where am I? Like, what am I saying? So like that part I noticed, and I don't know if it was maybe me, like your mind is very powerful, right?
Yeah.
So like maybe it was anticipating and then I made it happen and whatever we want to say. But even as far as like my body shape, I've noticed a little bit of that, but I also like, so it was very hard for me to get rid of weight after I did it.
Yeah,
and
me
then
too.
now I'm finally able, like almost 2 years later, to actually see a difference. And I was like, my food was weird, but I've always been weird with food in general. Like I have, that's my own thing. So, you know, I think overall, like I definitely started to see like that it was just a shift. But the other thing for me is I went from my 20s to my 30s, and I do feel like my body would have shifted anyway.
Yeah.
I was more aware, like, of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's so funny because that happened to me too. So that's really interesting you said that because I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that specific, you know, like not being able to shed the weight or not feeling like you went back to your normal self. I froze and then froze 2 years later. So it was like as soon as I started feeling normal, like you're saying, I then did it all over again to myself. So I don't quite know, was it just stress and anxiety and things that were happening in my life? Was it a combo of that and fertility? Was it, you know, just, I don't know, not being as physically, like doing as much physical activity as I used to because I felt sluggish. I don't know. It was just weird.
I also have, you know, anxiety that I manage with SoulCycle. Like I don't take any anti-anxiety medication, and I don't think that that's a bad, like, this is not a judgment. It's more that for me as a creator, I feel like drugs like that would change the way that I create, the way my brain works. Creative humans, to me, dance on the edge of crazy, and like I need to do that. Like I need to do that.
You
sometimes.
are my soul sister, girl. I say that all the time.
We're the most risky people, right? We're willing to like literally start from scratch, throw ourselves out of a plane and figure it out on the way down. Like, so to me,
or build the plane as we're flying it.
Yes, you would love the book Originals by Adam Grant. It's all about like a founder brain and how it's different from others. So I was like and I'm always thinking about processes and like how I could be more productive. So I was thinking about this and going through this, and I was like, you know, for me, like the hardest part of staying productive was like managing that anxiety. And I couldn't, after day like 6, because they're afraid of the ovarian torque, they wouldn't let me do SoulCycle. That's when I started to lose it. That's when because I was like, this is ridiculous. All these pregnant women, they basically give birth in the studio. I was like fighting with them hardcore. They were like, well, you could do yoga. I said, but it's not the same. So like I was able to maintain that more by keeping my community close. But like, I also just didn't want to be around people after a while. Like it was a hard two weeks. Like I always say to people, if you're doing this and you work for someone else, take the 2 weeks off.
Oh, yeah. Or treat it like a staycation kind of thing.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Like really stay home and like, you know,
just don't plan things. I found that it was best not to make plans, and that what's 2 weeks? Like, you know, really like everybody will still be there in 2 weeks.
Well, and your friends like should be there to check in on you. Like,
right.
You know, that's like when I moved from, I was living in Manhattan when I did this, and my community was not what it is now. Like if I did it now, I know that my friends would like come over with food and like I have a real true community of humans.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also helpful, but I needed to grow through the process of freezing my eggs to find who I really am. And I like, that was a big part of it for me, like making this, because it's a plan for future you, right? Yeah. Like this is me saying to like Vix, the mom, versus like Vix the woman or Victoria the person that like is my private persona. Like it was saying, look, I'm making this choice for you. I'm doing this for you. So now when I'm 35, 37, whatever, and I go on freeze those eggs, then it's like the gift that I gave myself.
Yeah. I love that.
Without even knowing her. You know what I mean? Like, but I spent much of my 20s in this, what I call disconnected defiance, because I felt like I had to do a certain thing, be a certain way, look a certain way to achieve what I wanted. And
or
then
to be accepted.
What?
Or to be like accepted.
100% to be accepted. Because I was 24 years old and I was a digital producer at Live with Kelly and Michael. Like, I had great career success very young, and I was in charge of a lot of things. And, I cut all my hair off at 21 because I wanted to be taken seriously. And then I turned 30 and I got extensions. This is not all me. A lot of it's me, but it's not. And that's another story that I think, like, this to me is all intertwined. Being a woman is hard, and being a woman in this world at this time is harder than ever.
Yeah, so it's very judgmental, and we're looking at everybody's highlight reels thinking that's their real life, and there's so much more to what someone is thinking about, suffering from, is worried about once in life than what meets the eye.
Yeah, and women who are successful at work are prime candidates for abusive, emotionally, physically abusive relationships. Like, I, got myself out of an emotionally and physically abusive relationship. Like, I was sexually harassed at work.
Me
like
too.
A lot of, because I was primed to be someone who was super successful and aggressive, quote unquote, but would like take the backseat for certain types of archetypes, right?
Yep.
My thing is, if you don't deal with the demon, it presents itself with a different face. So it kept happening, but again, you spend this time, like, I believe mental health is very important. So I spend a lot of time trying to say, like, how can I package this in a way that someone can understand?
Yeah.
That I can process. So, I think that for me, the egg freezing process was a liberation of sorts, because I want children more than anything else. But I want children with a partner who's worthy of me, with a man worthy of me. And this, to me, was me telling the universe, like, look, I'm planting this seed. Now you do your part.
I love it. How's that going?
We have good days and we have bad
Maybe it's
days.
just not time yet. Yeah. I always say this allows me to be more selective and to see the relationships through, so I know for sure that either they're right for me or they're not.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm a child of divorce. So to me, like, I don't want to get in that situation. I say partner, husband, because I don't know if marriage is for me. Like, I think prenup is for me. But, I don't know, like, we'll have an agreement, but I don't know if we're going to have the ring.
And remember, like, we're coming into relationships much further along than even a previous generation before us. So there's a lot more at stake that we've built independently. And I don't think that partners should just immediately have access to all that without earning it.
I agree. And I think, I always felt like if you could earn like a man, you should sleep around like a man if you wanted. Like, I was very liberated in my early 20s. Like, I usually use the F word, but I'm going to be PC here, because I'm always like, earn like a man, like a man. And that's good. You have to do it. You have to try, but it is very empty. And the older I get, now I'm much more focused on, like, if I'm going to share this physical space with someone and my physical energy, they got to be worth it.
Right.
And not just because they're cute as hell.
Right. I love it. Okay, so Vic, give us your final thoughts and what you would tell somebody that's maybe never done this or is just thinking about egg freezing.
I would say, talk to your friends, ask them, what their experience, and your friends who have had children, ask them about their experience. Then just do it. Like, do not wait. Do not assume that you will have the time. Go get your AMH test, like, today. If you are watching this and want to try, like, go take the test. It's nothing to take the test. And then you have data to show you a baseline, like some information. Again, it's not perfect, but it gives you some information. And overall, it is the best decision I have made, the best gift I have ever given to myself. And it's a choice that I would make over and over every single time.
Love it.
Thank you.
Love it. All right. Well, we're going to keep up with you online. Thanks so much for your time today. This is awesome. See you, Vic.
Thank you.